I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today, we hear a story of survival and redemption. After spiraling out of control in the face of addiction, our guest, Mason Sander, makes a course correction, struggles through recovery, and takes back control of his life to help others dealing with addiction. Let's meet our guest, Mason, who had a relatively normal Iowa childhood until things took a turn for the worse. Mason, give us an idea of why you're here today and what you've been through.
Sure, I appreciate the partnership's time. And up front and upmost, I've only ever received absolute love and support from my family and friends. And so I'm just so grateful for the life afforded to me. And then to go along with that, when I started to think about trying to become sober, I thought I would have this barrier between me and my friends and my family, as they might still indulge. So that's absolutely not the case. The bonds I have with my family and friends are stronger than ever, and they're just so solid. So yeah, to look at my childhood, my upbringing, banner childhood in Iowa in the 1990s, best time and place. Once I finished high school football, I felt accomplished, right? And so then what do you do after you feel accomplished? Well, perhaps that was the time to start hitting the booze, and then take me through undergrad. And that just persisted as I wanted that common college experience, right? Like so many. And then after I limped through my undergrad, got my degree, I had no leads, right? Because I was chronically misbehaving throughout college. So instead of setting up for an internship, I had nothing. So I wound back up in mom and dad's basement studying for the CPA exam. And so here's where I struck a deal with myself, that once I finished the exams, I would dial back my drinking. And I think that's an observation when you strike a deal with yourself about substance. That's an easy analytic to run on your life. That you might need to recalibrate. So that's when I'm an analytical type of guy, and that's when I started making observations, right? I was finishing up the CPA exams, and this was my first discovery, sir, in early 2013. I realized that I had been hammer drunk wasted for the first 4 months of my nephew's life. Every single day that my nephew was alive, I had been totally wasted. And that's a hard analytic to accept, right? So that's about the time I struck a deal with myself. But what happened when I passed the CPA exam? I accelerated my drinking because I had more time, right? And then it was about Easter in 2013 where someone close to me got an OWI. And that's another analytic, right? I had the police fooled for years. What else would I be doing driving around at 3 a.m.? So yeah, that's where I started to think, okay, I better revise my life, or I might just keep spiraling down. So I entered a stage of pseudo sobriety, right? Simulating with non-alcoholic beverage, going to weekly meetings, though I then entered the workforce, and we go out in the field in auditing, right? And in the fall of 13, that's when I found myself at restaurants after a day's work. And that's where I was weak, right? I mean, that's where you turn back to your old routine. And that persisted until next spring. And here's where the catalyst happened. I was at our family cabin, right? And my 2.5-year-old niece was under my care. And I was day drinking as usual. And then all of a sudden, my niece is nowhere to be seen. And I popped out from the back porch, and I could see my little niece running off the dock without a life jacket. So I was obviously negligent, and that could have gone the other way, right? So yeah, if that catalyst doesn't work, then there would have been there would have been nothing else. I would have wound up face down in the gutter. And even though I became completely straight edge, sober straight, shortly after there, I still submitted to substance a few more times because it can be so powerful if you let it. And I'm just so grateful for the life afforded to me. And I just want to make this part of my life's work.
So what age were you when you started drinking? I mean, and how did it start? What was it like in school? What do parents need to sort of see as to how a young kid gets started in this sort of drinking and gets away with it for so many years?
Sure. And let me know if I'm out of line with anything, because I don't want to be making blanket statements. This is just my observation. So like others in high school in rural Iowa, there is a fraction of boys who are raised, they're raised to drink booze, not by instruction, right? We're not teaching by instruction. We learn solely by example. I'm happy to talk further about that.
Yeah, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue the story with Mason and sort of find out how a life sort of indoctrinates alcohol into lifestyle at a young age. See y'all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back. We're talking with Mason about alcohol, substance use disorder, and a journey back from an edge that in his case, he realizes now started at a pretty young age. Mason, tell us a little bit more about growing up Iowa and having this sort of influence of alcohol follow you around.
Sure. And just to reiterate, I think what we were talking about, I mean, if I started dabbling with booze in middle of high school, that might put me at age 15. And that's my observation growing up. It happens in Iowa, in rural Iowa, where guardians essentially instruct little ones to drink booze and use substance. And they're not doing it by instruction, right? We don't learn that way. Not with substance, we don't. It is purely by example. And I don't know if that concept has been accepted or even explored too much. It might be pushed to the side due to a lack of accountability. I think I need to take a stance on it, and I want to make this my life's work, though it's just a way of life in, certainly rural Iowa, perhaps America. I haven't explored that.
But we've had experts on the show that have talked about the fact that the generational influences, the parents today grew up in a different world. And that does sound like, okay, everybody says that, but there were less threats. There were less predators. There was less exploitation of people by beer and other substance companies and things like that. So for a parent, we, as I can attest, experts have shown that we grow up woefully unaware of the risks and how much they've changed from the time we were young. And so we think that this is a rite of passage, but now the world has become complex. It sells a lot of stuff. We've got everything from Amazon to thousands or hundreds of TV and cable stations. These did not exist in a quote unquote simpler world we grew up in. So that means that threats have a place to proliferate, but they're the same threats they just resonate a little bit stronger in kids' lives. And for parents that grew up maybe doing like what you did, maybe it's hard to tell children not to do something that they did. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, right. Okay. You focus on the generation before me. They might feel content solely drinking booze, right? Though it's obviously a gateway, right? And I look back when I was in my heyday, in the dark days, I'll call them. Fortunately, I had no money, and you can't put illegal drugs on a low limit credit card. So I was restricted in what I could acquire. Though knowing that booze can be a gateway and you have more readily available substance out there, that's overlooked, right? Because I mean, obviously I used booze as a gateway to heavier things. And I'm just grateful as well that I didn't have access to some of the more gnarly substances out there when I was in college, or I'd be face down in the gutter. There is no mistake about that.
So as you grew up and you reached this sort of epiphany and started to make changes, in our conversation before the show, you talked something about, I think, the rule of twos. You realized that, you had so many years, I guess almost over 7 years of dealing with this roller coaster ride of sobriety and recovery and sobriety recovery. And then it took you a while to get really back on track and feel confident. How does that work?
Sir, I could speak about assimilation and the rule of two for a long time. Happy to do it. But let me know if you can't see this. Okay. This is the timeline of our life, right? Okay, you follow me? If we're doing one of three things in our life, we're either taking initiative, and then you're doing some variation of this. If we're doing what's expected of us, we're doing some variation of this. If we're wasting our time, in my case, living a life of substance, I'm doing some variation of this. You follow? Okay, so let's say I used drugs and led a life of substance for about 7.5 years. I did. Okay, by that factor, how many years am I out?
You're out 7.5 years.
No, sir. Rule of two. Because the years I spent wasting, I could have been applying myself. So the assimilation to get you back to zero is 7.5 years. And there's a certain correlation with how long it takes someone to recover. It makes sense that a person exploring substance their freshman year of college and then realizing, whoa, my grades took a hit. This is not for me. They're going to recover their GPA and their life's work immediately. But if you lead a life of substance, if you do it for decades, you're not going to recover. You're going to go back to your routine because that's what you know and what's embedded in your program. So for me, full assimilation took roughly 7.5 years. I didn't reach a point of confidence until I was midway through a master's program just 2 years ago. So 2014 to 2021, that it passes the eye test. And assimilation is so challenging. I could talk at length about it, but the decision to become sober, sir, that's a snap of your fingers. The true challenge is assimilation.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to continue our conversation about the path to sobriety, the struggles of recovery, and the way back home to normal. See you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? I'm high. Oh.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it With one of the nation's first 10G platforms, we'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and our guest, Mason, has learned life lessons, powerful ones, and he's willing to share his story to help others. Mason, let's hear what you have to say.
Sir, appreciate it. Let's revisit what assimilation can look like and why that's the true challenge, as opposed to just deciding to become sober, right? Like I said, I led a life of substance 7.5 years, and then I cut clean, right? I gave my remaining booze and tobacco away, as that's what I had on me at the time. Okay, well, I was not living in the metro at the time. I was in a mid-sized town, and I was generally aimless. Now having all this time to fill, knowing that I can't fill it with substance. So I generally wandered on foot, aimless, for a few years there. I was digging in dumpsters, collecting cans, just wandering. I was a street rat, if anything. But like, you look at how I initially was affected with my relationships, with my family and my friends, and now looking at how I interact with my sis and my folks, you would never know that those relationships used to be destroyed completely. So I mean, if I want to reach anyone, I need to let them know that there's certain promise in finding sobriety and rekindling relationships that were clearly lost, right? So
Hey, when you were a street rat, was that when you were sober? Trying to find a way through?
Yes, I had no guidance. And then, I'm my employer right now. I got a call from my current employer in late 2016. And sir, I was struggling. I had been sober for 2.5 years at that point. And I mean, at that point I was thinking, should I just hang it up? I have nothing. I don't know how to get out of this. And Denman gave me a chance at life. And I'm just so grateful for the life afforded to me. But yeah, like you look at how I interact with my sis and my folks now, and every greeting and every departure is nothing but I love you. So there is no mixed feelings with my family.
Well, that's sort of an interesting concept too, because for most people, they feel they have to change their entire landscape. You were fortunate that a job established some continuity, your family established some continuity. What were some of the things, like if you can share with us, things your parents might have said to you or your sis as you were coming out of this? I mean, were they afraid of a relationship with you because of knowing what could happen?
I'd say it was met with surprise, I didn't have this transparency with them. A lot of it's hidden, right? And I think that might be common amongst others struggling, is you have this dense distance between you, and they might have been none the wiser, not seeing how bad I was struggling with it. So it met them with surprise, but then, like I said, up front and upmost, I was only met with support and love and praise. So I'm just so grateful.
Well, we're gonna take a short break, and we're gonna come back and ask Mason to share some final comments, insights, and inspiration, things that you don't want to miss. Stay tuned.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At MediaCom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected. Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening. Our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back. Today on Surviving Bad, we've heard Mason's story of survival, redemption, and a return to normal after spiraling out of control in the face of addiction. Let's see what insights and inspiration our guest, Mason, has to share. Mason, the floor is yours.
I like it. Okay, well, yeah, I want to, now that we covered all that, I hope to talk about booze a little more and see why is it so successful? And we have to give credit where it's due. And you got to give it to the booze manufacturers for the most superior marketing on the planet. Booze manufacturers have effectively convinced America that it's a way of life and not a mere product you buy off the shelf. And once again, I just have to give them absolute credit for just doing it so well. And this is my riddle to you, sir. Within the last 5 years, I don't know for sure. I've been out of the game nearly a decade. What beverage has effectively taken over America? Any thoughts on that?
Well, you know, we know underage youth beer consumption is huge because it's often the first illegal substance that they use. Now we see a lot of increase in use of marijuana too, all things that the world sort of downplays the risks of. So, I mean, I mean, you know, you grew up in that world. You know, do kids grow up with a natural fear of beer in this culture?
Well, and I would steer more toward seltzer. Hard seltzer has taken over America. And look at the marketing behind it. It is marketed as a healthy alternative to other booze with less calories. Though when it comes to booze, that it's strict liability. Okay, one hard seltzer is equivalent to a standard serving of alcohol, and regardless if there are less calories, the more you drink of it, you're going to have the same effects. So, all right, here's my demonstration. Okay, can you see this? What I'm holding up?
Yep.
What is this?
A shot glass?
No, sir. That's slang. That is the slang that we use in America. What does it represent, though?
You tell me.
It's a measurement, okay? It's a measurement of one standard serving of alcohol. Except this is not a shot glass. This is a 2-ounce cup. I had to buy it in a pack for the demonstration. So this, I trimmed it down to 1.5 ounce. Can you see the difference? Okay, so this right here, this little thing, one standard serving of 80 proof, 40-ounce booze, 40% booze, pardon me, which it maths out. If you take this 1.5 ounces times 8, you get to 12 ounces of beer, but take the 40% concentration, divide by 8, you get the 5% for beer. So the math checks out there. A 5-ounce glass of wine is in the mix. So this right here, this is one serving of booze. The second, okay, here's the kicker, and this is it, sir. The second a woman drinks 1 drop more than 3 of these in a day, and for men, it's 1 drop more than 4 of these, they become a casual binge drinker. And so I would have everyone let that settle in, because look at, like, binge drinking means, so the measurement is for men, 5 drinks in a day, for women 4. But if a person's drinking more than this, I don't think they're going to stop at 3.5 or 4.5 beverages in a day. Okay.
That's a really good point. So basically, we have a real risk with binge drinking, and alcohol has become accepted in our culture. And we all know it's a difficult addiction to kick. And it's very brave of you to talk about the length of the process you had, both to the dark side and back. But if you could go back in time to Mason as a kid, around the time you might have had your first beer, what would you tell yourself? We know you did the best you knew how at the time, but what would you tell little Mason going back there?
Oh boy. Well, I don't want to cheat people of the life experience, right? Substance has an appeal. There's a reason it exists and just perpetuates, even though we're constantly advocating against it. So my message wouldn't be on the line of substance. It'd be more like this, because I'm such an ambitious person. I'm dialed back in my quest by 15 years, right? The rule of two. So let's say I'm 35. I think an ambitious 20-year-old would undoubtedly be where I'm at. They might have the on-the-job training or the experience, but mindset-wise, they would unmistakably be where I'm at today. So that might be the tale of caution I would give to youth, and that's where I want to focus. Right? Find kids on the cusp of experimentation with substance, and see if we can break through that way. Not just warning them not to do it, but to explain on a deeper level why. Like, look at your life's work, and you're only 15 years at the time. You're only about a fourth of the way there. So I got to make this my life's work, sir. See if I can reach out to our people. I love my homeland. I'm not going anywhere. Iowa's where it's at.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us today, sharing your story. There's a sense of bravery there, putting things out in the open. And I wish you luck in your work to help young people deal with some of these challenges. And thank you all for joining us today. Check out our website at healthyiowa.org and keep your eye on MediaCom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration on MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.